This story starts with a girl is standing in front of a beautiful manor. Butler said, "Your Grace, your fiancé, Lady Karina, is here to see you." Milian stops writing and asked, "What?" "He is ruler of Xantar, Duke Milian Pastellio." He asked, "Fong, isn't the wedding a year from now?" While bowing his head, Fong replied, "Yes, your Grace." He said, "But since she's come all this way, I think you should at least go and see her." Milian stands up and started walking. He said, "Why?" in angry tone. "How could she be this rude? What in the world is she thinking?" He said, "Though we're engaged, I can't believe that she would barge in here without even informing us ahead of time." While Fong is walking beside him, he said, "And she just had to come now, when winter is around the corner, and I have more important matters to deal with." Milian thinks in his mind, "We must accumulate enough food to last and make preparations to fight against demonic monsters. Please don't forget to subscribe and help me to reach 1K subs as soon as possible. Thanks for your support." Milian stops at a door and asked while opening the door, "Is it too late to call off the engagement now?" Karina said, "That sounds wonderful." Milian looks at her and thinks in his mind, "TSK, did she overhear?" He said, "What did you just say?" Karina said, "I'm willing to call off the engagement. In return, I'd like to live here for a period of about 6 to 10 months. Milian asked, "Who?" Karina replied, "Me." Milian asked, "Are you out of your mind?" Karina replied, "Not at all." She said, "I don't need a room in the main building. I'm fine with staying in the annex, as well." She digs up a paper from her robe and said, "I even brought the document to break off the engagement." While presenting the paper to Milian, she said, "Here you go." Milian looks at her, and then looks at her clothes. She's wearing worn out and shabby clothes. He asked, "Is your family struggling financially?" Karina tilts her head and while confused asked, "Pardon?" While looking at her clothes, Milian asked, "Did you travel like that? Where are the rest of your bags?" Karina said, I didn't bring anything else, in case something happened to me." He asked, "How did you come all this way?" She said while remembering her journey in her mind, I paid for a carriage ride, got off and walked for a while, then hitchhiked the rest of the way." Milian asked, "When did you depart?" Karina replied, 2 months ago. Milian takes a sigh and said, "You could have sent a message during that time. No, more importantly, how could you embark on a dangerous journey all by yourself? How naive can you be?" Karina replied, "That's because..." While smiling, she said, "This may be my first trip as well as my last." While remembering the scenery of her journey of forest and wildlife, she said, "I've always wanted to accomplish something with my own strength." Milian thinks in his mind, well, it wouldn't make sense for a noble lady to go on such a reckless journey more than once. Karina asked, "May I please stay here?" Milian walks close to her and asked, "What will you do if I say no?" Karina thinks and said, "Well, I did think of going from place to place and working here, and there is my plan B." Milian takes a sigh and thinks in his mind, what kind of a plan is that? He looks at her and thinks, is she really the same person I saw at the engagement ceremony? He recalls his memories of his engagement with Karina in his mind. He thinks in his mind, I had no idea that she was this rash. Karina said while smiling, "But I believe you won't say no, yes?" He asked, "What makes you think that?" She replied, "That's because Your Grace doesn't like me." While showing him the paper, she said, "I'm quite good at catching on to stuff like that. As you can see, I've already filled out the form to call off our engagement." He said, "Very well. Come in for now." She said, "Thank you. I promise not to be a bother. You won't even know that I'm here." She said, "And when I suddenly disappear one day, just think that I've returned home." While closing her eyes, she said, "Or you can think that you've been freed from an annoying burden." Milian said, "As you wish. Fong, prepare a room for her." Karina tells in her mind, "And that was how I ended up living in the manor of my fiancé who hated me." Before some time, Karina and her family was sitting at the dining table. Karina's father said, "Lia, you look very well today." Abilia said, "It's all thanks to the wonderful medicine that you and mother bring me every day." Felden said, how could you call that wonderful? It looked awfully bitter. Yuck. Karina's mother said with closed eyes. Leah's ill. She needs to eat her medicine to get well, even if it's bitter. Enfric said, I also bought you a gift to cheer you up, Leah. Felden asked, no fair. What about me? Enfric said, of course, I brought you one too. Abelia said, thank you, Enfric. Karina tells his story of her childhood. She tells, when I was little, I wondered why I was the only one with dull, brown hair in my family. While looking at her family photos, she tells, we all share the same blood, but I don't look like them at all. While putting her spoon back on table, she tells, later on, I found out that I had inherited my dark hair from one of my grandparents. She stands up and said, I'm finished. May I be excused? Karina's mother said, all right. Karina walks away and closed the door to the dining hall. She said, while walking, they don't even care. While walking, she thinks in her mind, it's all right. It doesn't bother me anymore. She staggers while walking. She grabs the side of a pillar and stands. She then started running. She stops and vomited up everything she ate. She thinks in her mind, he didn't say, my condition would deteriorate this quickly. A few days ago, while writing on the paper, doctor said, I'm sorry to say this, but your organs seem to be functioning at only half of their potential. Karina asked, is it that serious? Doctor replied, yes. It's a miracle you're still walking about. If you suddenly became like this, though you were healthy before, I suspect that it could be the art disease. Karina gets shocked after hearing that. She asked, the art disease? Doctor explained, oh Karina, among artists, there are a few gifted individuals who can bring about miracles. And among these individuals, there are some whose abilities cost them their life force. That being the case, I assume you can create miracles as well. Karina said with a sad face. Yes. Doctor said, every time you use your power, your health must have weakened considerably. Why didn't you get a checkup? If you discovered that you had this illness beforehand, it wouldn't have worsened to this extent. The doctor asked, didn't your family say anything? Karina shakes her head. Karina talks in her mind, the reason why I didn't tell my family about this is because they wouldn't have listened. While remembering her miracle art, she tells, I guess you could say it was out of pride. While imagining her parents in her mind, she tells, of course, it wasn't that my parents didn't love me. They always tried to be fair. But my younger siblings needed my parents more than I did because they were younger and ill. Inevitably, mother and father couldn't afford to be fair all the time. She tells, I was neither the firstborn nor the youngest in the family. I was the second child who could look after myself. Naturally, the amount of attention my parents gave me was smaller than a grain of sand. She started shaking while thinking, if I tell them now, they'll probably start paying more attention to me. But how will I know whether they truly care for me? What if they're just interested in my ability? Back to present. The doctor asked, you said you're vomiting blood and feeling anemic? Karina replied, yes. Doctor said, that's serious. I'm sorry to say this. With a serious face, doctor said, but you have a year to live, at most. He said, since you won't be able to eat properly anymore, your body will become weaker. While Karina is shocked, he said, so even 1 year is a stretch. Karina asked, is there anything I can do to live? Doctor replied, no, not as far as I know. But come back after a while if you still wish to live a little longer. I may come up with something. While sitting near the window, Karina saw birds flying. She thinks in her mind, I wish I had wings too. She said, I'm going to die. She squeezes her hand and thinks, but before that happens, I want to do everything I had ever wanted to do. I'm not going to force myself to smile. I'm not going to act like I can do everything alone. She thinks, and I'm going to start speaking up for myself. While leaning on the window, she thinks in her mind, what will everyone think when they find out about my illness? While imagining her family, she thinks in her mind, if they start treating me like I'm an inconvenience. While taking a sigh, she thinks, I don't think I'll be able to bear it. That's why I can't tell them. She thinks while looking outside the window, should I just run away? But I have only a year left. Even if I do run away, where will I go? What will I do? While standing up, she thinks in her mind, I wish there was someone who would look at me for the way I am, regardless of whether they like me or not. She remembers something in her mind. Karina recalls her engagement day in her mind, in which Milian asked, "Are you a sheep?" He said, "You meekly do everything you're told, going this way and that. If you didn't want to come here, you shouldn't have." Karina looks at him. While walking, she thinks in her mind, but if I think about it, he didn't reject the engagement either. She thinks, then, shall I go to the north? While imagining herself on journey, she thinks it'll be a journey I'll embark on, with my own 2 feet. She thinks in her mind, all right. But what should I bring with me? While writing on a paper, Karina thinks in her mind, I should exchange gold for cash beforehand, make sure to pack comfortable clothes, jerky, water, and she thinks, I need to bring the document to call off the engagement. She started writing. While writing, she thinks in her mind, I should probably drop by to see that doctor again. While sitting in front of mirror, she thinks in her mind, anyway, I didn't go down to eat breakfast, but no one came to find me. While looking sad, she thinks, I do realize they don't know I'm ill, but I still feel a little sad. She shakes her head to shake off the gloomy thoughts and thinks it's all right. I only have a week to get ready, so I need to begin now. While touching her money bag, she thinks I've prepared enough pocket money. While standing in front of the mirror and looking at her, she recalls her memories. Someone walks to Karina and said, "Excuse me." Karina asked, "Yes? What is it?" She asked, "Are you well acquainted with Lord Enfrick? I saw you talking to him a few moments ago." Karina replied, "Yes." Karina answering her, Karina thinks in her mind, that's because he's my brother. The girl started talking to the other girl, "Oh, how I envy you. He's quite dashing, isn't he?" The other girl said, "Count and Countess Leopold are both very admirable people, and their children are all famous, aren't they?" While imagining Enfrick, she said, "First, Lord Enfrick. They say that he's well versed in literary arts, is a skilled swordsman, and that he's more than capable to become the head of House Leopold at any time." She said, "That's right. And I also heard that a young noblewoman confessed her love to him through a letter not long ago." While imagining Felden, she said, "And Lord Felden. They say that he's always surrounded by people because he's full of life. And we mustn't forget Lady Abelia." While imagining Abelia, she said, "She has beautiful, wavy blonde hair flowing down her back, and blue eyes that shine like jewels. I saw her the other day, and you wouldn't believe how lovely she was. It's no wonder she's the most well-known lady in high society. But she's quite ill." After listening to them talking to each other, Karina walks away. The first girl said, "Yes, that's why the Leopolds are so careful about her health. Come to think of it, there was someone else." The other girl said, "Yes, someone quite plain was always with them. I wonder who she is. Could it be? Where did she go?" Karina was remembering all of this while standing in front of a mirror. She puts her hand on her cheeks and said, "Someone plain." While walking in the hallway, she thinks in her mind, I remember turning away and going straight back home that day. I wonder what happened afterward. While walking down the stairs, Karina saw Nocturne. Nocturne also saw Karina. Nocturne said, "Oh, hello, Lady Karina." Karina glares at him for a moment, and she said, "It's been a while, Nocturne. What brings you here?" He cheerfully replied, "Yeah. I mean, Lady Abelia is getting her checkup today." Karina thinks in her mind, "Leah, huh?" While remembering her younger self, Karina thinks in her mind, I once had feelings for him, but... While imagining Nocturne and Abelia, she thinks in her mind Nocturne only had eyes for Abelia. Perhaps it was because she reminded him of his little sister, who died when she was young. I had no choice but to let my affection for him wither away. While passing by Nocturne, Karina said, "I see. I'll be going now." Nocturne looks at Karina, gets an intuition, and said, "You don't look too well. Are you alright?" Karina thinks in her mind, "Since when did you care?" She said, "I guess I didn't get enough sleep." Nocturne then said, "I could give you a checkup along with Lady Abelia, if you'd like." Karina said that's alright. While both of them were talking while standing at stairs, Abelia came. Abelia walks to Karina and cheerfully hugs her. While hugging, she said, "Karina!" Due to this unexpected hug, Karina stumbles and Nocturne grabs Karina. Karina looks surprised by Nocturne's gesture. While looking at Abelia, Nocturne said, "It's dangerous to run around here, Leah." Abelia said, "Sorry, Nocturne. I was just so happy to see Karina." Karina. Abelia keeps hugging Karina. She asked Karina, "Where are you going?" Karina replied, "I'm going out." Karina grabs Abelia by her shoulders and said, "Abelia, you should be more careful. What if you fell down the stairs?" Abelia said, "I knew you would catch me." After hearing Abelia, Karina mumbles something. No one heard anything. Nocturne and Abelia looks confused. "Huh!" Karina said, "It's nothing. You should go get your checkup done so you'll get better." While putting on a pout, Abelia said, "But Nocturne always scolds me." Abelia said, "Besides, I feel better these days. Can I go outside with you?" Karina pushes her hand away and said, "Nocturne came all the way here to help you. It wouldn't do to just send him back." Abelia looks a little sad and said, "But..." Nocturne said, "Leah, I'm sad that you think I only scold you. I'm just doing my job." He said, "Since Lady Karina has plans, we should let her go and head upstairs now." Abelia said, "Okay." Abelia drooped her shoulders and said, "You're so lucky to be able to go outside every day, Karina." After hearing Abelia, Karina gets shocked. She clenches her hands and thinks in her mind, "What? Lucky? How could you say that? You have no idea what I had to endure." Karina remembers a time. While taking care of Abelia, Karina tells in her mind, "Abelia loved clinging to me. So I always had to stay by her side and tend to her." While remembering the letters, she tells in her mind, "All those tea party invitations gathered dust on my desk because I couldn't go. Naturally." She tells in her mind, "I wished I could attend parties and have fun. I never got a chance to make any friends. That's how it was all the time." While talking to Karina, her mother said, "I'm sorry, Karina. Enfric fell off his horse, so I need to go and see him." Karina said with a sad face, "But today's my birthday." While maids are tending to her dress, Karina's mother said, "Your brother could have been seriously injured." Karina asked, "What about father?" Her mother said, "He's already left for the academy. Tell the butler what you'd like for your birthday." While looking at newborn kids, Karina said, "Wow, they're so tiny. Are they my younger siblings?" While lying on bed, Karina's mother said, "That's right. Since you're a big sister now, you need to take good care of them, alright?" Karina cheerfully said, "Okay." Karina imagines herself with her siblings walking, while she looks happy. Abelia coughs. Karina thinks in her mind, "Did she cough?" Karina said, "Mother, Abelia just..." Her mother said, "Karina, go to your room now." Her mother said to the maid with a worried look in her face, "Call for the doctor immediately." The maid said, "Yes, my lady." While another time, Karina said, "No. Felden. Give it back." While Felden is a kid, he grabs the toy. Karina pulls it from him and said, "Mother made me this for my birthday." Felden falls with a thump sound and started crying. Karina gets startled after looking at Felden crying. Karina's mother burst open the door and said angrily, "Goodness, Karina. What in the world are you doing? How could you treat your younger brother like that?" Karina said, "But Felden tried to take my..." Her mother interrupts Karina and shouted, "He's just a baby. Give it to him." While holding Felden, her mother said, "You must be kind to the little ones so they'll follow in your footsteps. Just let Felden play with that. My darling boy, are you alright?" While Karina is hugging the toy, her mother said, "Be a good girl, Karina." She said, "Karina, do as you're told. Do you want to be punished by your father?" Karina said. No, but… Her mother said, then stop acting like a child. Karina gives her toy to Feldon. At another time, Karina said to her mother, Mother, I feel dizzy. While sewing, her mother said, What? She puts her hand on Karina's forehead and said, Oh my, you have a fever. She said Abelia has a fever as well. The doctor is with her now, so I'll send him over to you afterward. She holds Karina up and said, Let's go to your room for now. I'll carry you there. Karina said, Okay. Karina looks happy and she smiles looking at her mother. Someone knocks on the door. The butler said to Karina's mother, My lady, the doctor wishes to talk to you about Lady Abelia. Her mother asked, Is something wrong? All right. Tell him I'll be right there. She drops Karina and said to her, I'm sorry, Karina. I'll call a maid for you. Go to your room and get some rest. I'll be there as soon as I'm done. She said, Since you're a big girl now, you'll be able to look after yourself, yes? Karina asked. Can't you carry me to my room, mother? Her mother said, Ha. But you're healthy. She remembers other times where her mother said, You must be understanding of your sister since she's ill. You're such a good girl, Karina. She tells I had to be a good child if I wanted to receive praise from my parents. While looking at sick Abelia, she tells Abelia was sicker than I was. While imagining Feldon, she tells Feldon was younger than I was. While looking at the picture, she tells an Enfric lived far away from home. She tells my parents always seemed to have an excuse for not prioritizing me. That was how I slowly closed my heart and decided not to reach out to them when I turned 10. While drawing, she tells instead, I found a new hobby. Her eyes sparkles yellow when she is drawing. She tells I didn't know my creations were miracles then. While looking at a butterfly drawing, she tells, but I felt fulfilled whenever I filled the paper with my drawings. The butterfly from her drawing becomes alive and started flying. Karina looks at butterfly with awe. She joyfully runs to her parents and said, Mother, Father! Look at this picture I drew! Her mother said to Karina while holding the paper, Karina! Enfric won first place at the Academy Swordsmanship competition. We suspect that he'll graduate early. Karina said, Wow, that's fantastic. Her mother joyfully said, That's right. I wonder who he takes after. While Karina's father said, I want to see it too. While showing her drawing, Karina said, Mother, I drew this picture today. Her mother takes a glance at her drawing and turns her head away and said, Yes, good job. Her mother said to her father, Anyway, we must throw a small party when he comes home for the weekend. While Karina is standing behind them looking sad, she said, Abelia is getting better these days, too. So many good things are happening. Karina thinks in her mind, Won't you look my way, just once? At another time, Karina's mother said, Karina! While sitting on a chair drawing, Karina said, Yes? Her mother shouted, Did you take what was on my desk? Karina replied, No. Her mother said, Don't lie. She said, Then why is it in Abelia's hands? I told you it's dangerous. With a blank expression, Karina said, I didn't do. While Abelia is crying besides her mother, she said, Why can't you be a good big sister? Why must you cause so much trouble? Karina thinks in her mind she doesn't want to listen to me. She said, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. At another time, Karina's father said to her, Enfric's graduation ceremony is tomorrow, so would it be alright if we push back your birthday party, Karina? Karina thinks in her mind, compared to Enfric's many talents, which everyone praises, my drawings are nothing. It's not like having my party a bit later is going to mean there'll be less food or presents. At another time, while holding Abelia, Karina's mother said to her, Karina, it's all right to have your tea party another day, yes? Abelia's not well again. Karina think in her mind, of course, since I'm healthier than her. It's okay. She said, Yes, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine. She tells, the more I said those words, the more I drew. That's when I realized that my pictures only came to life if I drew sincerely with all my heart. Sometimes I drew for just an hour. At other times, I drew for an entire day. Countless pictures came to life and vanished. While remembering herself crying, she tells I loved my creations more than my family, who wouldn't look at me no matter how much I cried for them. She tells while remembering her creations at times, they were animals that consoled me when I was upset, or just friends that listened to what I had to say. And that was how I soon reached the point of no return. While walking away, Karina said then, I'll see you later. She thinks in her mind, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Abilia shouted while standing on stairs, Karina. She said, buy me something yummy from the market. I want to try stuff like kebabs, too. Nocturne said to Abilia. Yeah, be careful. Karina said while looking happy. All right. Abilia said, hurry back, Karina. While walking in the garden, Karina thinks in her mind. Karina Leopold. She thinks you're the worst. How could you get jealous of your own little sister? The doctor asked Karina, did you decide that you want to live? While smiling, Karina said, no, I need medicine. Doctor asked, medicine? What kind of medicine? She said, I'm going to leave this place. I've never been in control of my own life, not even once. She said, I don't want to live like this anymore. The doctor asked him, so, where are you going? She replied, it's a place at the end of the northern region. She said, have you heard of Zentar? While cheerfully smiling, doctor said, you might as well dig your own grave now. He said you'd be better off taking a pill that'll kill you in a snap of a finger than going to a place like that. While walking away from her, he said, if you're here to ask to be killed, you're at the wrong place. Get out of here. Karina said, no, you misunderstand. She said, is there a way to get there safely without dying? I was planning to take 2 months to get there. While the doctor is thinking, she said, and rest for a day or two every week at an inn. Would it be impossible? While pulling his chair, doctor asked, but why go north? She said, I have an acquaintance there. He said, but the north is unbelievably freezing. On top of that, winter's only 2 months away. She said, I don't think that'll be a problem, since I plan on only staying indoors. With a worried look, doctor asked, what are you trying to do, exactly? While looking at him, Karina thinks in her mind, he's looking at me as if I'm an ignorant child. She said, I would like to get there without dying. That's all I want. The doctor asked, when do you plan on leaving? She said, next week. While writing something, doctor said, there's not much time left. If you have heart disease, there's not a lot I can do about your declining health. He said, but I can delay the process. If you stop taking the pills, your condition will get a lot worse. And I'll only prescribe you 2 months' worth of them. After hearing the doctor, Karina cheered up and said, that's more than enough. Karina gives money to the doctor. He said, that's too much money. This medicine isn't even that expensive. Karina said, you're prescribing me 2 months' worth of medicine. And I also wanted to give this to you as a sign of thanks. I don't have anywhere to spend this, anyway. I'll see you in 6 days, sir. While looking at her leaving, doctor thinks in his mind, she's so young, and yet she's so quick to give up. I wonder what kind of life she lived to look so relieved about leaving. While walking in the bazaar, Karina thinks in her mind, once I get the medicine, I'll be all set to go. While walking in bazaar, she smells the aroma of kebabs. She thinks in her mind, that smells heavenly. The stall owner said to Karina, don't be shy and give it a try, miss. You'll thank me later. Karina remembers Abilia in her mind saying, I want to try stuff like kebabs, too. While smiling, Karina said to the stall owner, I'll have 2 to go, please. While sitting in the carriage, Karina looks outside. She looks at a girl wiping a little girl's face with an handkerchief. She remembers Abilia's words in her mind. You're so lucky to be able to go outside every day, Karina. While looking sad, she thinks in her mind, I know she didn't mean it in a bad way, and I know that she adores me as well, though I don't know why. While her heart throbs, she thinks in her mind, I wish I could be more easygoing about things like this. While coming from the gate and walking, she thinks in her mid, after all, Abelia and Felden are younger than me, and I should be understanding as their older sister. She said I guessed this would be perfect for a light snack before dinner. Felden asked Karina, "Where have you been?" Karina replied, "Hello, Felden." While sniffing the bag Karina is holding, Felden said, "Smells delicious." He snatches the bag from Karina and said while smiling, "Isn't this too heavy, Karina? I'll carry it for you." Karina said, "You only offer to help when I have food." While smiling she said, "Go and eat it with Abelia. She told me to buy her some." While running away Felsen said, "Yahoo, thanks, Karina." "Hey, Abelia! Look what I've got!" Karina thinks in her mind, "I'm drained. I should take a quick nap." At night Karina was sleeping in her bedroom. She heard a voice saying, "Karina Leopold!" She rises up from bed and asked, "What brings you to my room at this hour?" "Father," her father angrily said. "Karina, did you buy street food for Abelia?" Karina replied, "Yes. I went out today." While her mother and Felden are standing behind her father, he said, "Ha, you know that Abelia should be careful about what she eats, don't you?" While looking down, Karina thinks in her mind, "So this is what brought them to my room. I simply got her what she wanted." Karina asked, "Did something happen to Abelia?" Her father said, "There must have been something wrong with the food. She threw up everything to the point of dehydration." While remembering Abelia vomiting up, he said, "How could you be so thoughtless? You're her older sister." Her mother said, "Your father's right, Karina. You're an adult now. You should have been more careful." Karina said, "But Leah." Her father interrupts her and shouted, "I don't want to hear your excuses." Felden said, "Father, mother." Karina just. Karina talks to herself in her mind, "Keep calm. This will end as it always has if you say sorry. They're simply worried about Abelia. There's no one else to blame." But she thinks in her mind, "Why are they taking it all out on me?" Karina said to her father, "So what?" Her father gets stunned. "Huh?" He asked, "What did you just say?" Karina said, "What do you want me to do?" She thinks in her mind, "How much longer do I have to endure this? For a year?" While she clenches her clothes, she thinks in her mind, "Until the day I die. Will they know how I felt after my death?" Her father said, "What an insolent." Karina interrupts him and said, "I simply bought those kebabs for Abelia because she asked me to." She said, "And you should have firmly told her that she shouldn't eat such foods because they may be bad for her health." Her father said, "What? How ignorant are you about your sisters?" Karina interrupts her father again and said, "No. I thought that it'd be alright because Abelia asked me to buy her some." While getting shocked, her mother said, "Karina, how could you talk back to your father like that?" She thinks in her mind, "Ha, my head hurts." She said, "What do you mean? I simply told him my opinion, that's all. I don't believe I did anything wrong." Her mother said, "Ha, but if you were going to buy her food like that, you should have gotten permission from the doctor." Karina said, "What do you mean by food like that? Felden was fine after he ate it." She said, "Besides, I bought some after trying one myself, so I thought it'd be alright." She said to her father, "I'll be careful from now on, father. And please warn Abelia about this as well." While trying to get calm, her father said, "Alright. Please be more cautious." While her father, turning Felden, asked her mother, "Mother, may I go see Abelia?" She replied, "Go on." Her father stopped at the door and said, "Karina, you know that your sister has been unwell since the day she was born, don't you?" Karina said, "Yes." He said, "You might feel like this isn't fair, but you're perfectly healthy. So please understand." Karina said, "All right." She thinks in her mind, "I'm sick of hearing about how healthy I am. It's not like I'm the only healthy one in this family. And Frick and Felden are perfectly fine as well. Why does he always talk as if being born healthy is a sin, and keeps demanding me to make sacrifices?" Karina said, "I know." Karina's mother said, "Your father must be worked up because Leah passed out. Karina, please be understanding." She asked Karina. You're not upset or anything, are you? While they were going, Karina said, Is that all you have to say to me? Both of her parents stopped. Her father asked, What? Karina asked mockingly. I'm surprised you even knew where my room was, father. Mother, he replied. Of course we knew. Karina said, I thought that both of you had forgotten, since you never came here to see me these past few years. After listening to Karina, both of them get shocked. Karina said to them, Please tell Abilia that I'm sorry I caused such an inconvenience. I'm tired, so I'd like to get some rest. They left after that. While lying on her bed, Karina thinks in her mind, Ha! I didn't do anything wrong. I hope Abilia's alright. While looking worried, she thinks in her mind, as for dehydration, I've been through it a couple times recently myself. It'll be alright. It's not a big deal. After that, Karina quickly stands up and take her colors and started drawing. She draws a little fairy, and she came to life. The little fairy starts lying. Karina said, Hello there, Miss Fairy. While the little fairy hugs her, she thinks in her mind, I should just forget it all, like I always did. I have my drawings. She thinks creating art is the only way I can breathe. I cannot stop drawing, even if I have to exchange my life for it. After all, it's my everything. The next day, maid asked Karina, Oh my! Are you here to eat in the dining room today, Lady Karina? Karina remembers Felden and Abilia apologizing to her. Felden said, Karina, sorry about the other day. While crying, Abilia said, Karina, I'm sorry. I won't ask you to buy me street food ever again, so will you forgive me? And please come to the dining room for our meals, too. While standing in front of the door, Karina said, Yes, I will. The maid said, That's good to hear. Everyone will be pleased. Karina talks in her mind, Today will be my last day here, anyway. While sitting on the dining table, Karina thinks in her mind, I don't think I'll be able to eat anything other than that salad. Her father said to her, Ahem. Karina, I noticed that your birthday is in 2 days. She said, Yes, that's right. She thinks in her mind, I forgot that my birthday was coming up. Her father said that happens to be Enfric's day off, so we thought it'd be nice to go on a picnic all together. He said, Would it be alright to push back your birthday party? Karina said, Do as you wish. However, I don't think I'll be able to attend the picnic. I have plans. Her father asked, Is it so important that you must miss a family event? While standing up from the dining table, she said, Yes, I'm sorry. I hope you all have a lovely time without me. I'm done eating, so I'll excuse myself first. After that, she dashed back to her room. She places a paper on the table. While standing in front of the mirror, she thinks in her mind, I thought I couldn't be any more disappointed or sad. While writing on the paper, she thinks this might as well be my last birthday. She thinks father didn't even seem sorry when he asked if my party could be postponed. He acted like I would obviously say yes. It looks like my last memory of this place is going to be horrid too. After putting her robe, she gets ready to leave. She thinks in her mind still, since they're family, I wondered whether I should at least say something to them before leaving. But I just ended up leaving a simple letter on my table. After that, she left on her journey. In the Zenta region. While taking bath, Karina thinks in her mind, it's a relief that he didn't kick me out. A few minutes ago, Milian said while going away, As you wish. Fong, prepare a room for her. He said to her, We'll talk after you get washed up. Karina nodded to him. While looking at the medicine bottle, she thinks, I only have 3 pills left. She closes her eyes and remembers the doctor's words in her mind, I've given you plenty of medicine, but if you end up with only 3 pills left, stop taking them. Once you do, you'll come down with a fever in 3 days. Your health will decline rapidly afterward. It'll be as if all the water pent up behind a dam comes bursting out. After the bath, while rinsing her hair, Karina thinks in her mind, if my calculations are correct, my body temperature will start rising tonight. She remembers the doctor's words again: if your fever rises to an unbearable level, take a pill once every 2 days. P.S. Don't resist sleep. It's a sign that your body is fighting to stay alive. While standing, she thinks in her mind, is this what it's like to be a grandfather? While remembering her journey, she thinks the journey was exhausting, but it was tremendously fun as well. Though I only have 1 year to live as I wish. After getting ready, she thinks, no, that's more than enough for me. I should do whatever I want. And in order to do that, she remembers something in her mind. While standing in front of Milian, she thinks in her mind, this study smells like paper and ink. I think I kind of understand why he seems so touchy now. While looking away from him, she thinks in her mind, I'm sorry to bother you when you're busy. Milian said, take a seat first. Karina said, all right. Both Milian and Karina sat on sofas and the butler pours them tea. Milian said, now, explain why you came all the way to Zentar. Karina asked him, must I? Milian said with a frustrated look, I think I have the right to know, seeing how you're the one who asked me to let you live here for a while. He asked, did you get into a fight with your family or something? Karina clenches her clothes and said, I suppose you can say that. Milian said, considering the fact that you spent 2 whole months just to get here, I understand how desperately you wanted to leave. While Karina is looking down and sad, he asked, was the fight that serious? Karina talks in her mind, he is partly right. While imagining her family in her mind, I just wanted to spend my last days in peace, and, in order to do that, I needed to be far away from my family. She thinks in her mind, to be honest, a part of me wished that they would regret how they treated me after I died. I know I'm being childish, but... While holding the teacup, she said, everyone needs time to be alone sometimes. Milian said, yes, but now's not a good time. Winter's the busiest season of the year in Zentar, so I won't be able to tend to your needs. Karina joyfully said, that sounds great. While looking gloomy, Milian thinks in his mind, what in the world is this tiny lady trying to say? No, more importantly. Karina started babbling. She said, so if you happen to have an annex that you're not using, may I use it? If I were given a room right next to your graces, I imagine that it'd be awfully awkward when we run into each other, and... While looking at her babble, Milian thinks in his mind, is this really the same lady that I met at the engagement ceremony? She seems rather different now. He said ahem, the annex needs a bit of touching up. Karina asked, is it dusty? Milian said, no, it's clean, but it needs to be refurbished, and I have yet to assign servants there. While putting her cup and table, she said, if there's fire and warm water, it's more than enough. I don't even need a maid. Milian said, if you say so. It's ready for use, so you may move in whenever you'd like. Fang, make preparations. He said, and don't even think about going outside by yourself. With a concerning look on his face, he said, the north is different from the south during the winter. It's dangerous because you never know when a demonic monster could appear. Karina stands up and said, don't worry. I don't plan on venturing out. I'd like to get some rest. May I go to the annex right away? Milian said, go ahead. While going away, Karina said to Milian, thank you for allowing me to stay here. Milian said, I didn't exactly have a choice. It's not like I could kick you out. While walking, Karina stops at the door. While opening the door, she said, Your Grace, I'm sorry to be an inconvenience. She left while Milian and Fang are still there. While walking, Karina collapsed at the side of a wall. She thinks, I feel a bit dizzy. Karina was sleeping on the bed. While lying on bed, she thinks in her mind, it's so cold. While looking at the light, she thinks the light's still on over there. She rises up from bed. While walking holding a lantern, she thinks in her mind, I should fetch a kettle and a towel to cool my forehead while I have enough strength to move. While walking, she thinks, is the kitchen this way? This place is bigger than Leopold Manor, so it's hard to find my way around. While walking, she hears a creepy sound and gets spooked. She then heard voice of someone walking, and then she heard a voice saying, Lady Karina? She gets scared. She screamed and swings the lantern to the person calling her. The person avoids her swing. She then glances at the person. Milian asked, "What are you doing up so late?" While taking a sigh of relief, she said, "Well, what brings your grace here at this hour?" Milian said, "Ah." While scratching his neck, he thinks in his mind, "I can't tell her that I came because I was worried about her." He said, "I was taking a walk when I remembered the heaters in the annex were broken, so I came to check on them." Karina said, "Oh? Is that so?" He steps up to her and extends his hand towards her, and she flinches. He said, "But..." While getting confused, he asked, "Lady Karina, are you hiding something from me?" While looking at her worried face, he said, "If anything is wrong, tell me." Karina said, "It's nothing." With an angry face, he thinks in his mind, "Nothing?" He then grabs her hand and started walking. While walking, he thinks in his mind, while looking at her, she's out of breath, her cheeks are red, and unlike before, her voice is shaking. He said to her, "You have a fever?" Karina said, "It's all right. I'm sure it'll go away if I get enough rest." He said, "I should have seen this coming when you told me that it took you 2 months to get here. Why didn't you just say you were feeling unwell? Only a foolish bear would try to endure something like this." Karina imagines a bear in her mind and asked, "A bear?" He said, "On the battlefield, it's more troublesome to deal with someone who dies from hiding their wounds. So, if you don't want your condition to worsen even more, I need you to tell me about these things beforehand." He asked, "Do you understand?" With a sorry face, she said, "I'm sorry." She thinks in her mind, "Wait a minute. Why do I have to be scolded here like this in the middle of the night?" Karina said, "I..." Milian interrupts her, and he raised his hand in front of Karina's face. Abd asked, "Lady Karina, how many fingers am I holding up?" Karina thinks in her mind while her vision of his fingers is blurry, "There's no way he's holding up 6 fingers, and since I'm seeing doubles." She said, 3. Milian looks at his 2 dingers. She thinks in her mind, "Did I get it right?" Milian said, "You really are such a handful." He then lifts her up and holds her in his arms. While surprised, Karina said, "I'm fine." He said, "This isn't a good place for a patient to live in. I'll take you to the main building." Karina said, "But..." He said, "I know that you don't want to, but I'd be a horrible host if I just let you stay in the annex." Karina said, "Okay." Milian starts walking while holding her in his arms. He said to her, "I'll call someone to take care of you. Get some sleep." While feeling dizzy, Karina said, "No doctors." Milian asked, "What?" She said, "Don't call a doctor, no matter what, please." He said, "All right. Just go to sleep." She said, "Your Grace, you promise?" Milian brings her to the main building. She falls asleep on bed. While looking at Karina sleeping, Milian thinks just. He first stops his hand and then thinks in his mind, "What is she trying to hide from me?" 2 months ago. Maid said to Karina's father, "Goodness, your lordship! Lady Karina's nowhere to be found." He said, "Why are you making such a fuss? She frequently goes out on her own, doesn't she?" While bowing her head, Maid said, "I apologize, my lord." "Well, I don't think that's the case this time." While presenting a letter, Maid said, "I found this letter on her table when I was cleaning Lady Karina's room this morning." The letter's content were as follows. "I'm going to go on a journey. Karina Leopold." He said, "What in the world?" While reaching her hand to the letter, her mother asked, "What is it?" After reading it, she asked, "Where could she have gone without saying a word?" He father asked the maid, "When's the last time you saw her?" She said, "Well, I believe I saw her go outside 2 days ago." He asked, "What about yesterday?" She said, "Yesterday? I don't recall seeing her." He asked, "Did any of you see Karina yesterday?" Felden and Abilia looks oblivious. Abilia asked, "Since she wasn't in her room, I thought she went to the market again." Felden said, "I haven't seen her recently either." Enfric said, "Perhaps she was upset that the picnic overlapped with her birthday. I should have picked a different date." Enfric remembers his conversations with Karina in his mind. He said, "Karina, if you're upset, you can say so. Don't forget that mother and father love you. Karina said, I know. I'm their child, so they probably do love me, somewhere deep inside their heart. But one thing is for certain. I'm not their favorite. After putting the letter on the table, her mother wipes her mouth and said honestly, how could she be so inconsiderate? Didn't she realize we'd worry once we discovered she was gone? If she hated the picnic so much, she could have said so. Her father said to the butler she couldn't have gone too far. Dispatch a few of our men and find out where she went. Her mother asked the maid, did any money go missing? The maid replied, just 2 gold coins from today and yesterday combined, your ladyship. Her father said, see? She couldn't have made it too far with so little money. He said she'll probably be back after 2 weeks or so. I'll make sure to scold her properly when she returns. Her mother said, I hope nothing happens to her. Her father said, what an ungrateful child. This will serve as a good lesson for her when she finally realizes how blessed she was to live in comfort under this roof. After a few days, while standing beside the table, her father shouted, Karina Leopold. What in the world is she thinking? While crumpling the paper, he said, no matter how upset she was, how could she do this? His mother came and asked, darling, what's wrong? He said, it seems that Karina went south. She asked, so how is she? While putting his left hand on his face, he said they lost her when she got on a carriage headed for the capital. He thinks in his mind, I understand that Karina might feel upset, but how could she stir up trouble on purpose? What a disgrace to the family. While sitting, her mother said, who knows what may happen to her? We must send more people and bring her. Her father interrupts her mother and said, bring her back? For what? If she hates being here so much, let her be. She left of her own volition, so I refuse to let her into this manner unless she gets on her knees and begs for forgiveness. He called his butler Countess. He said to him, I don't care how much it costs to keep tracking her down. Find her. Countess replied while bowing she head, yes, my lord. Her mother said, I know that it was rash of Karina to do something like this, but I can only imagine how dismayed she must have been. Her father said, stop making excuses for her. She ran away because she was upset about a birthday party. He said, if word gets out about this, I won't be able to hold my head up. She's a smart girl. I'm sure she'll be back before that happens. Her father asked her mother, how's Leah? Isn't she lonely now that Karina's not here? Her mother, with a worry face, said, it seems as though she goes in and out of Karina's room, but she doesn't say much. Still, it must be hard for her. Her father said, she's more mature than her childish sister. Her mother said, though Abilia acts out sometimes, she's quite thoughtful. I'm sure Karina had her reasons for acting this way too. While imagining Karina in his mind, he said, what in the world could she possibly have been upset about? We gave her enough pocket money and always bought her the things she asked for. Her father said, we must have spoiled that girl. Her mother thinks in her mind that's true. We gave her everything a child could ever want. No, let's not talk about this anymore. She'll probably return in a month, at least. Karina opens her eyes and blinks. She was lying in bed. Milian asked, are you awake? He was sitting on a chair while reading a paper. Karina turns her head and looks at him and said, Your Grace? She gets shocked and talks in her head, it really is him. Milian said, you still have a fever? Stay in bed. While rising up from bed, Karina asked, Your Grace, what are you doing here? Milian replied, don't you remember? You refused to see a doctor, and it was too late to call for anyone. He steps up to her and said, so I decided to stay by your side until morning. While Milian is pushing her into the bed, Karina asked, really? He said, then why else would I be reading my papers in here instead of my study? She said, but am I not a bother to you? Milian talks in his mind, why would she be a bother? She's a patient, so of course I have to take care of her. He said, I am the owner of this manor, Lady Karina. Since I accepted your offer, it's all right for you to act like a guest. With a relieving face, Karina said, okay. Milian sits on a chair near the bed and asks, "Do you need anything?" "I've never looked after anyone before, so I'm quite new to this." Karina asked, "Really? This is your first time?" He replied, "That's right." She said, "This is a first for me too." While smirking, he thinks in his mind, "Of course it is. There's no way a noble lady would ever need to tend to someone who's ill. She's babbling nonsense because of her fever." Karina said while smiling, "But it is quite nice to have someone nearby when you're sick." She said, "I'm used to looking after my siblings, so." Milian thinks in his mind, she must have been referring to being taken care of, not taking care of someone else. He talks in his mind, "Come to think of it, I believe I heard that Count Leopold's youngest daughter is quite sick." While imagining the Leopold family in his mind, he thinks things can be difficult for a family with a patient. For instance, it's inevitable for a parent's attention and affection to tilt in one direction. He said, "Anyway, it seems like your fever's not going down, which is a problem." Karina said, "I have medicine in my bag. I forgot to bring it." Milian stands up and said, "I'll go get it then." Karina grabs his hand and said, "No. Not right now,